my district where we've got some folks who are relatively comfortable, and they are really obsessed with issues that are not really relevant to the district or aren't in the jurisdiction of a state Senate seat. And we've got other folks who, those folks really want help, like, getting by.
If you actually go out there and you knock on doors and you see how people are doing, you'll see that there is a tremendous amount of disparity. And
people are having to make very, very tough choices. And no one's saving. No one's saving for retirement. No one from our generation is really saving.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creamy.
Vermont politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello, and welcome to There's No A in Creamy. How you doing today, Andy?
I'm not laughing.
I am, apparently.
Yeah. We've gotten a little giggly at the front of this.
We have a little bit.
At the top of this, the last few episodes.
Yeah.
And, I'm annoying myself on this. We need to stop.
No, I don't think so,
All
because I think the stress of the campaign is like squeezing the laughter out of us on the podcast.
Yeah, but is it like a funny laugh or like a crazy person laugh? Is that where we're at?
It's probably both. Yeah.
All right. I accept that.
Yeah. You had a really fun event this week. You had a leader in Vermont politics come visit you in your native area.
Yes. I got to spend the day with Molly Gray and her team in the islands.
Yeah.
She's a lot of fun. So we went to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Wally's Place Bagels. We went to
I love Wally's.
Cider, which does senior housing and senior transportation. The Land Trust is a cool project going on. They've got the meeting house in South Hero from 1828 or 4 has been moved off its foundation, and we visited that site. Took her around the farms. It was a lot of fun.
Aww,
yeah, we got up to
fun.
North Hero for a while. Visited my wife, and my wife got to show her the vault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The town clerk's office.
Yeah, my wife's a town clerk,
Yep.
and she loves all of that stuff, and she's so proud of her vault. And Molly was very curious about all of it, and she even specifically asked about the vault. And
That's so awesome.
Corinne floated over to the vault
I can imagine.
and showed her everything inside.
That's a cool job perk. Like, you have a vault and you get to monitor it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty cool.
Well, my job perk too. I get to take people around. We had the ACCD. We did a tour, and we've got somebody else coming up in the political world that I get to do tours of. Everybody wants to come to the islands in the summer.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them. Nobody wants to come in January, but
Yeah.
everybody can think of an excuse to do an economic tour of the islands in the summer.
Yeah. Also a podcast. And we're back in the podcast office in Burlington today. But last week it was really fun to get back to the shack.
It was. And we were going to do it this week, but
scheduling
problems.
It's just not possible.
Nope.
It's sad though. But I'm looking forward to getting back to the islands.
Someday.
You're getting out to do something fun tonight.
Yeah, Big Head Todd and the Monsters is playing in Stowe, one of my favorite bands from high school.
I can't believe I don't know them.
Bittersweet, Resignation, Superman, any of these?
I feel
Maybe
like
I'll play.
people are going to be listening oh my God, how do you not know these? And I don't. And it's just going to be embarrassing, but I don't know them.
They don't have a saxophone player, so maybe that's not your beat.
Andy's taking a little shot at some of my personal history. Yeah, saxophone players. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just turned the color of your microphone.
I'm just sure I did. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to pivot into the next subject because it's so serious. Okay. So part of the reason that we're so giggly is because we've had a really intense week and few days as a team. So folks know I'm running for state senate, and Andy is my campaign manager. And we talked about this for a hot second last week on the podcast. Sorry. And we talked a little about how I did the South Burlington Dems Forum, and it was like a free-for-all format, and someone grabbed the microphone, and they made some really intense and really inaccurate accusations that were really offensive. And, folks, since then, we've gotten a lot of support, and we really appreciate that. I think it's given me, this isn't a new topic to me, but it's given me a lot of thought about the culture wars here in Vermont and how that's played out. And something, I think, Andy, when we were doing your campaign, and the clean heat standard was floating around, and that was like kind of my first look. I'm having trouble figuring out how to articulate what I'm saying, but that was the first time that I saw really close up how hard it is for folks whose basic needs aren't being met to like sort of expand their emotional capacity and their empathy for issues that didn't affect themselves. And I think that one of the reasons that Democrats lost 26 seats in 2024 is because the party had lost sight of the fact that people, if their basic needs aren't being met, if their housing and healthcare and their families, like they can't take care of the things that they really need, they can't start thinking about climate change, or they can't start thinking about some progressive social issues that are important but might not affect their own family. And it got really hard to talk about those things. And now in my own campaign, I'm struggling with a situation where we've got these sort of really polarized views in my district, where we've got some folks who are relatively comfortable, and they are really obsessed with issues that are not really relevant to the district or aren't in the jurisdiction of a state Senate seat. And we've got other folks, and that is the overwhelming majority of the 2,800 doors that I've been knocking on, who those folks really want help like getting by today and here. And those folks really they talk to me about how they want to be able to afford to stay in Vermont, how they're paying for surgeries out of pocket, how they're worried that their schools are being defunded. Like they have these like really real basic needs. And then we've got this like kind of tiny cohort who are super loud, who are not worried about those things, and they're really fixated on other issues. And it's not those issues aren't important, right. But they're sort of hijacking the narrative and the campaign, and that's been really hard for me because I really want to be helping these all 68,000 Vermonters in my district who are well represented by the 2,800 doors I've knocked on, who are really concerned about housing, healthcare, education, shoring up Vermont, shoring up our economy, fair tax structure, and all this stuff. And it's been really frustrating, because I just feel like we're getting taken off base by these folks that they're all set, they're through the gates, right. And they're not feeling shut out. They're not worried about being able to afford life in Vermont. And so they get this privilege of being worried about other stuff and thinking that's the only thing that we should be worrying about. And I guess this is like a little rambling, but this is just something I'm thinking about a lot. I mean, definitely over the past week, but also for the past 2 years,
Yeah, I think so. When I started my campaign, I mean, you really try to keep things focused on the basics, and then everything tries to pull you in 100 different directions. But I think one of the things you learn when you take the time to campaign and actually meet people where they're at, because if you could just let it come to you, and it's a distortion. Like if you actually go out there and you knock on doors and you see how people are doing, you'll see that there is a tremendous amount of disparity, and it's softened because you and I were campaigning in Chittenden County, which is probably the economic, doing the best of the state of Vermont. But there is, and statistics back this up, a widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. And we're really starting to see people in Vermont and the United States who do not have their basic needs met, cannot go to a doctor, don't know when their next meal is coming from, don't know how long their housing situation is going to last, right. Are dependent on a landlord who owns that building, not going a different direction with them and casting them out with nowhere to go.
Right.
And when you're in that state, you just don't have the capacity to be thinking about other things. And I think we all need to be sensitive to that and realize that there are people out there struggling with the basic needs, and we can all care about different issues, but that needs to be the core, and we need to address that, or else we can't make progress as a society. We can't be running over to here when we haven't solved the basic needs back at the starting line. Yeah,
that's really well put. I seriously I mean, it's funny, like I wrote in my notes culture wars, but it's actually these like empathy wars. Like I feel like, and running, I think you and I have such a unique perspective, having run your campaign and now running my campaign, literally two opposite ends of the same county. And, you know, in your campaign, folks were struggling so much with their basic needs that they kind of, you know, they gave into an ideology that was making a lot of false promises to them in aggregate. And then I've got my end of the county, which has some very loud voices that have really lost touch with the overwhelming needs of the district and taking it in a different direction. Like everybody's needs need to be met so that they can have the capacity both to take care of their families and to look broader and to, you know, take climate action and to worry about people in other countries and support them. You know, like it's so important to be able to do it all. But like my job, if I win this race as a state senator, is to support my community and make sure everybody in it is okay, first and foremost. And we are just losing sight of that as a party, you know, and it really scares me. And it's just like, I don't know, I'm getting a little emotional, but like, I'm really like, it's been an emotional couple of weeks for us. And I don't know how we got so low or so lost, like the party's so lost. And I hope that, you know, you and I can continue fighting to help it find itself in some capacity. That's what we're doing, both with this podcast and with our campaigns.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's a cliche to say we all want the same things when you think about it, but it's true. But I think what we're fighting over is whose issue is more important. You know, one issue, my issue is more important than your issue, and we need to listen to each other and be a little bit more empathetic because some of these issues and basic needs should be the top priority. Yeah. And if we're not listening to them, we're not setting ourselves up for success as a society.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But I hear you, and I'm glad we're here doing this work.
Me too. We did something really fun yesterday. That was a lot later.
Yeah, you have to because we're dealing with some heady issues here, and we're getting close to the election.
Yeah,
it's all coming to a head here, but yeah. Outside nature is a lot of fun, and we hiked. We got out in the district. We hiked Mount Philo. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Yesterday we did a big field trip. We hiked Mount Philo, and if you had told me months ago that I would have done 2 hikes 2 weeks in a row in the middle of campaign season, I would have told you were insane.
Right.
But it's turned out to be like totally necessary to keep our brains together, and also been an amazing way to see the district, and even just like the warm like hellos on the trail have been so inspiring. It's funny, Charity talked about that on our podcast, when she was saying how the long trail, everyone's so wonderful. And that's so true. Everyone's like, hey, hope you're having a nice day. It's just really sweet.
Yeah, really friendly. Yeah. You let me go on a hike about 3 weeks out from Election Day on my campaign.
Yeah, well, we took a day off. We took one day off on your entire campaign.
Yes, and I got to go for a hike, and I don't think I would have made it through that last 3 weeks without that.
I remember that. I remember so clearly, like that maybe 2 weeks before that, and that we were just, I don't remember what we were talking about. I just remember being like, we need a day off, because it was really 7 days a week. Like this is pretty much 7 days a week too, but I was like, we need a day off, and you went hiking, and I went to Montreal. And so this time, we went hiking together. This shows our arc a little bit.
Yeah.
And we went hiking, and we did Mount Philo. It was so fun.
We're not always together. I just want to listen to this podcast sometimes, and I'm like, we do spend time apart. Just to put that on the record.
And our families spend time all together too. And I think that people know that, but anyway. So we did Mount Philo, and then we visited a local farmer, my friend Adam Hausman, Adam's Berry Farm, and they have a really cool, first of all, their berry farm is amazing, and they have the best popsicles in the universe, bar none.
Yeah.
Right?
The peach ginger, very good.
So good. No, is that what you got?
Yeah.
I got the strawberry lemon. I don't know why I thought that you got the same thing I got, but I thought
you got the peach ginger. but it looked different than mine. So I thought you were getting the peach ginger.
Oh, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay. I was wondering why yours looked different than mine. I was a little concerned that you got a more concentrated version.
Okay, so we had popsicles. They were amazing. We can both confirm that.
Yes.
And we walked around, and Adam used to be in the Intervale, and I used to volunteer in the Intervale, and he got flooded out a bunch of times and eventually moved to this really, it is the gold standard for Vermont sustainable agriculture. It's conserved land. It's a beautiful hill farm.
Very nice spot. You said that, is this the one you said they dug the plants out of the ground and relocated them to the new site? That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was working for the Agency of Agriculture at the time, and this is in retrospect a crazy thing to say, but I really wanted Adam to write a journal article about how you move a farm, because it's almost unprecedented. And I was just he's such a cool, diversified farm, exactly what we want to see Vermonters doing. And he's such an incredible land steward. And I don't know, I could talk about them all day long. Okay, and I kind of am. But anyway, we visited Adams, and we were heading back to do regular campaign work. And we had an amazing roadside stop.
Unexpected.
Totally unexpected.
Yeah. Sisters of Anarchy ice cream.
Yeah.
So my wife, I don't know, I think it was our anniversary last October. We went out and she's like, you got to try this new ice cream company. And we went out and found this cooler in Essex in a Mexican restaurant that had
so awesome.
prepackaged.
So random.
Yeah. And they've got all these really creative flavors. But we were driving through Shelburne.
Yeah. We're driving back, and we see this big flag for Sisters of Anarchy. And I was like, oh, I think that's that ice cream place.
It was like a barn.
Yeah.
And then it was this building. There was this dog that was out front, kind of inexplicably just staring up.
You only cared about the dog.
The anarchy part was there.
Real.
Yeah. It wasn't. We weren't sure we were in the right place, and then we went in there, and it was definitely an ice cream tasting room.
Amazing ice cream.
So many different flavors.
And they weren't just flavors. They were each one was a scene.
Yes.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got coffee with raspberries in it, and it was so good. And that was actually one of probably most of the simple options.
Yeah, mine was mint with chocolate chunks, but that was probably a pretty standard. The others were much more wild.
Yeah.
They like to do a lot of wild combinations and varieties.
Yeah, so we had popsicles, and then we had ice cream.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, now I see why people say you gain weight on campaigns. Yeah. That was really fun. And Sisters of Anarchy. So we had to do a deep dive on them because we were so intrigued by them. What did we learn about them, Andy?
Well, I mean, they're a female-owned company.
Yeah.
And we went to their About page, and boy, they've got a lot of really cool stuff here, including a song. But yes, they've got a slogan, or they've got a About Us thing and the things that they believe. And I'll read you a few here. The longer the title, the less important the position. It isn't bragging if you can get it done. Manels, in parentheses, all male panels, at meetings should be banned. The Oxford comma is around to stay. Fighting words.
Thank you, yes.
Impact should not be used as a verb. Anti-vaxxers and flat earthers should join forces and step off the edge. We are women. We are who we are. We do what we do. So eat dessert first, because you never know what might happen. Sisters of Anarchy ice cream.
Absolutely brilliant.
Words to live by.
Words to live by. Completely brilliant. Legit inspiration. I just love it so much. Thank you, Sisters of Anarchy, for, doing what you're doing and inspiring us both with your foods and your words.
There was also a random bear statue out front.
Yeah, there was.
Part of the anarchy. I was just thinking about, we were just walking up to it, and it's am I in the right place? Am I going to get murdered? Is this what's going on here? And it was.
I wonder, it wouldn't, if you got to eat the ice cream and then you got murdered, it would still be not terrible.
It would have been worth it.
Yeah.
It would have been worth it. It would have been a good way to go.
Yeah. They had a dog and a play set, and it was just the best. It was so excellent. Okay, so we have been crazed and busy with campaign and the podcast and our jobs and our families. So we are doing another rebroadcast, and it was a really wonderful interview. Who are we rebroadcasting today?
Molly Gray.
Yeah.
And her distinctive flannel shirt.
Yes.
And she hasn't totally been able to keep that up in the summertime, but I've noticed she's put on some plaid and tried to keep the spirit of the flannel alive.
Really? Excellent.
Yes. So...
I love a theme.
I almost did a State House style here. I kind of did.
Oh my God, you kind of did. That's awesome. All right.
Could be.
Well, we hope you guys enjoy this interview with Molly.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creamy. Molly Gray, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm excited to be in studio. Congratulations on the new place.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so the last time we talked, we were on the phone and we were in the skate shack.
I think you're our first repeat guest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Woo!
Yeah,
I made the cut.
you did, totally. Yeah. We're excited to have you back. So you are running for Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
Tell us why you're running.
Super excited. Today's March 18th. The campaign's been up and running since January 5th, and lots of positive momentum. You know, if we had spoken a year ago, if someone said, "Are you going to run for office again?" And I even think when we were chatting last time I was on the podcast, I was starting to think about it, but it's so hard. Running for office is so incredibly hard. But for me, there was this moment where things became crystal clear. And over the last couple of years, there's been really great things that have happened and really hard things that have happened. And the good things have been having a child and helping to lead a statewide organization, supporting Afghan veterans and allies, as you know. And then the hard things have been what we've seen over the last year with the Trump administration. And I hope we get into it today, but there have been many moments where Vermont has had decision points. And we saw that recently with South Burlington and the ICE enforcement action. And we have to have leaders right now who are not afraid to hold the line and protect the state and all of our residents from Trump and all sorts of different actions, not just immigration enforcement that is unlawful, but also really trying to get back to the needs of working families. And we no longer have federal money. We no longer have federal funds coming in to fill in some of those gaps. It's just us on our own now with a small budget, a shrinking tax base, having to figure out the basics. And for me, we have to have a lieutenant governor who's fierce in that, fierce in protecting rights, fierce in making life better for working families, and fierce in figuring out how to lower costs. And I've got a plan, and I'm excited about that. And that's what Vermonters deserve. So I am 1,000% in bringing new experience, new perspective, and a lot of energy at a time where we need it.
I love that, fierce in our protection line. That's a really beautiful sentiment.
Thanks.
Well, let's dig into some of that, and let's start with the immigrant community. You've been involved standing up the Vermont Afghan Alliance for the past few years. What are you bringing from that experience, and what concerns do you have as you bring that to this campaign?
Yeah, so much. And I'm still in touch with so many of the members of the Afghan community that I worked with, who I worked with so closely over the last 3 years, the staff who are helping to run the organization. We started as a scrappy GoFundMe-funded driving effort. So we had a Toyota Corolla, some funds for fuel, and volunteers who were helping new arrivals learn to drive. And just for those of you who don't know, and I think I talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, the United States was in Afghanistan for 21 years. So working with a community of people across all different sectors. And then many Afghans moved to Vermont with the largest population in the nation per capita. And for me, our demographic crisis has always been a big perplexing question. Like, why is it that Vermont has incredible natural beauty, incredible, I would say, like incredible offerings in terms of our food system, recreation, you name it. Like, who doesn't want to live in Vermont, right? We'll get to the cost of living pieces in a moment. But when the first Afghans started arriving, I thought, one, I care about this as a human rights lawyer. Two, I care about this as someone who's had a sibling, deployed overseas, and my brother served in Iraq. And Joanna, I know you were deeply involved in post 9/11 work, but to have an organization in Vermont committed to welcoming people who risked everything for our government felt like that's a Vermont value. That's like what we do as Vermonters. But then this economic question, we have to have more taxpayers. We have to, which means, and we're not going to birth our way out of it, right? Like I've tried. I have a 2.5-year-old.
We've all done our part here.
We've all done our part. So we have no choice but to welcome people from all over the world and all over the country with their skills and talents. And what has been so exciting about this community is that they've come with law degrees, with doctors, they're doctors, licensed, physicians, not here in the U.S. yet, engineers, people we need in high demand jobs and sectors. So I've loved that work. And what I now know, having helped people pass the road test and learn to drive, helping people find housing, working with countless employers in Northern Vermont to figure out how can we get people into those jobs and make sure that employers can work with them to retain them. All of that skill I can bring back, bring to this office again. And understanding really in the most palpable way how the Trump administration is just coming for refugees and immigrants, because seeing it over the last year, and where we're just not holding the line as Vermonters. We don't have leadership in office in some of our offices right now. Charity's doing her part as Attorney General. Mike is doing his part, setting up the Immigration Legal Defense Fund. Sarah Copeland-Hansis is in the trenches protecting against voter suppression and turning over our Vermont voter data. But we need that in the lieutenant governor's office, and we need it in the governor's office, frankly.
Yeah. I think we talked about this on the last episode, but I'm really appreciative of all the work that you've done to help refugees here. I think I mentioned this, but I can't remember that I'm a third-generation American and that my family settled here in part with the help of an organization very similar to yours. And that led to 3 generations of people who worked in public service. So it just goes to show that, that kind of kindness and compassion, I like to think is a positive long-term impact on our community. But that's not what I was going to ask you. Okay, so you got into this a little bit, but tell us a little more about why the lieutenant governor.
Yeah. This is like the most overlooked and underestimated office, I think, frankly, in state government, because there are the nuts and bolts of the position, the constitutional pieces, so presiding over the Senate, which you need to know legislative process. You need to know questions of germaneness. You need to know former senator, right?
Parliamentary procedure.
Parliamentary procedure. Mm-hmm. You also serve on the Committee on Committees, which really helps figure out what expertise is on which committee. Mm-hmm. And, depending on how someone feels about ag policy or ed policy, that can have a huge impact. There is a statewide platform and an opportunity to be really clear in your communication about what is right and what is wrong, what is legal, what is not. Bringing the voices of Vermonters into the State House at a time where we need the legislature to have as many tools at their disposal in figuring out these tough things, housing costs, healthcare costs, continuing to make investments like childcare. So I think that this is an office where we have to have people who are smart, strong, know the Constitution, and are deeply connected to those who are most impacted, right? Working families, like we're the ones who are suffering right now with the incredible lack of investment that we've seen here in Vermont. So I'm all in. And it's not hypothetical. I'm not running for lieutenant governor wondering what the job is. I know the job. I know what the office can be, what it should be, and what Vermonters deserve right now.
Well, you've done this position before, and you came in kind of as a newcomer, and we talked about this on the last episode. It was a weird experience because it was COVID, and often you were presiding over the Senate, and they weren't even there. You and the pro tem were the only ones in the building. But what did you learn from that experience? What did you take from that makes you want to come back and run for this position again?
Yeah. Well, one, I believe in process, really good process. And if you don't have good process, you don't have good outcomes, and people don't trust the outcomes. In the Senate, there will be, I think, 21, maybe 22 new senators within the last 2 to 4 years next term. Phil Baruth is retiring. So when I think to the Senate, I'm like, there's Senator Perchlik. He knows process, but there are very few senators who know the rules. And I think it's going to be extremely important for a functioning Senate to have a good presiding officer who can help steer the ship. Additionally, when I served previously, we were at the height of COVID. It was an all hands on deck moment. And we're in an all hands on deck moment again. The next 3 years of the Trump administration are going to be this year plus the following 2 are going to be the most dangerous without question. So it's not a time for on-the-job training. It's not a time for, how do I do this? It's a time for get into the office, preside well, support the legislature, and help hold the line with our 8 other statewide elected officials across government.
So if things break both of our ways, we might both be in the Senate chamber next year. Spoiler alert. And I'm curious if you could share with us a little about how you imagine working with the Senate if you win.
Yeah. So I found it very, very helpful to really know what the role of the lieutenant governor is and what it's not. The role of lieutenant governor isn't to be telling senators how to do their job or admonishing them. I don't think that's constructive. I don't have time for that. And I don't think that's not what we need right now. And I do think it's a statewide office. And so one thing that I did when I was served previously, as soon as we were getting out of COVID, I said, I'm going to do a statewide tour. And I'm going to go to every single county and pull together anyone who wants to listen, anyone who wants to share, anyone who wants to engage about how we recover stronger from COVID. So meeting with nurses, mental health professionals, business leaders, town managers, collected information over 7 months, and then wrote a report for the legislature and the governor going into the legislative session and just said, here, as you do hearings and you want individuals to testify, these are folks who have experience and I've documented what they've shared. Or here's some policy ideas. And a good lieutenant governor, I think, should be an extra set of eyes and ears out there helping to bring that expertise back to Montpelier because we need that right now. And there's all sorts of, no one is coming to save us. We have to bring the ideas and solutions from Vermont to Montpelier, because that's how it's going to happen. I mean, that's the situation we're in. So I see that being very important. I also think that senators need cover for their work at times, and we need someone to step forward when Vermont's not holding the line and protecting fundamental rights, maybe assisting with unlawful constitutional action to say, no, we're not going to do this. For example, over the last year, SNAP was ended by our governor, the first governor in the nation to do so, to end food assistance for Afghan special immigrant visa holders. So people arriving here, didn't even have food when they first arrived. We had to do an emergency appeal to help. It's just until they got a job. There was no statewide message saying, you know what? These folks are here, oftentimes working 2 jobs or working second shift. They're not looking for a handout. They're growing our tax base. That's leadership right now.
And made incredible sacrifices
and
for
made
our country.
incredible sacrifices.
Yeah.
The lieutenant governor has a platform, has a voice. That's so important. And senators need to know that they have a lieutenant governor who has their back.
So you're crisscrossing all over the state right now, talking to lots of people. What are the themes that you're hearing from voters?
It's really interesting. There's both, as you might expect, deep, deep fear because of Trump's overreach and the cruelty and inhumanity coming from Washington that it is impacting us here. In Newport, there were our new neighbors who were pulled off a housing project, building homes here. We've seen immigrants pulled off of farms. We've seen just what we saw last week in South Burlington, which is just horrifying and leads to so many questions about what is the role of Vermont law enforcement moving forward in ICE operations. And that needs to be clarified. I don't think any Vermont dollars, taxpayer dollars in Vermont should go to any ICE enforcement operations, period. ever. I mean, we have to abide by our fair and impartial policing policy. So there's that. There's the fear and concern. Then there's the deep, deep economic fears, concerns, realities that individuals are figuring out when they go to the pump, like whether they're going to be able to fully fill up the tank. I don't know if you filled up your tank in the last week. It was like $67 for a tank of a Jetta the other day. And it was like, I was like, okay, well, that's, people are concerned about that, concerned about whether they're going to pay for their mortgage or save for rent. And then what we've seen with health insurance over the last year, people are having to make very, very tough choices. And no one's saving. No one's saving for retirement. No one from our generation is really saving. And so and I think I see this tension between, and people say this to me, Molly, you talk a lot about immigrants, but I need you to talk about Vermonters. And what I think is really important for people to know that these issues are completely connected. Anytime we have individuals who are lawfully here in our state, working jobs, our newest Vermonters being ripped out of our communities, we lose taxpayers. We cannot afford to lose valued members of our workforce. And that, what's happening in Iran impacts us right here in Vermont. So much of what's happening nationally and globally is impacting us as a state.
Native Vermonters here.
I hate that word.
I know.
Really, and thank you for that.
Yes. Well, we've seen a lot of change in the state over the years, and some of it's been good, and some of it maybe not so much. What have you seen change over your lifetime here that's been positive, and what has been negative?
Yeah. Every time I get in the car to go to the farm where I grew up, I think I've shared with you, I was born in South Newbury in this 1790s farmhouse that still doesn't have a dryer, dishwasher, or microwave. And I was literally born in the house. My younger brother, Charlie, was as well. And so we grew up, just to give you a flavor of what that was like. I remember we would take our clothes for the next day for school, out of the washing machine. If I wanted to wear my favorite, 1 or 2 pair of jeans, I had to hang them above the wood stove on some nails so that they would be dry by the morning. And they were the stiffest,
right.
jeans.
Yeah.
And I didn't know a fluffy hot towel from a dryer until, I don't know, it was in college. I was and then everything shrinks. But anyway, so every time I get in the car and go home, I know that I am a little bit going back in time by the time I get home. But to drive, I get off in Barrie, and then you start driving through Orange County on Route 25. And it's so hard to see just crumbling housing stock. So many of our aspects of our rural towns they feel like they're a skeleton of what they once were. And then we get to Newbury, and our elementary school is the most beautiful place. It's right on the town green. It's a brick building. I mean, it was everything growing up. I still remember my kindergarten teacher, Ms. Schwenke, the most special person. And we went on as Newbury Elementary School graduates to do pretty big things. I don't know if you know Allie Richards, a big person in the childcare space. But my brothers will tell you, Molly, Newbury's not what it once was. And we all left, and we all have come back to Vermont, and we're a ride or die. We're going to make it here no matter what. But as we all have kids, they're Newbury isn't what it once was. And so the things that worry me most is that I'm concerned that you can only survive in Vermont if you have a lot of money now, and that you can't afford if you're a teacher or a carpenter or a plumber or someone who's actually keeping the infrastructure, our human infrastructure and physical infrastructure going. You can't afford to be here, and that the concern is what if we become a playground for those who have a lot of money with a lot of natural beauty? And that's scary. That's really scary. And so that's where I come back to, well, what are we going to do about that? And so often our policies in the state, I think, have been deeply focused on there's one thing we'll do and that will be the answer. So we'll consolidate all of our schools and save a bunch of money and lower taxes. And and that in turn will like reverse our demographic crisis and everything will be fine. And I'm like, wait a second, like it's not that simple. But I do believe it's this sort of constellation landing pad approach where we've done an amazing job with childcare. So people are thinking, okay, I know I can work in any field with my income and have kids and make sure that they have a good start. They have a good start to their life, right? And I can continue working. But we haven't made those big investments and big changes when we think about housing. And we've had some reforms to Act 250. We can talk about designated downtowns and moving things from Act 250, but we haven't figured out the affordable housing piece, which is part of that, right? That's what you're thinking about when you're starting a family. Like, is there a place to live? Do I have childcare? And then I loved the interview with Owen Foster because I was like, finally, I'm like someone who's like breaking down the healthcare just mammoth, like this thing that's so hard for us to understand. And I like those pieces, childcare, housing, healthcare, all have to be figured out in coordination, in conjunction, to try to reverse what to me feels like, this 10 years of austerity. We'll do one thing. We'll pay people $10,000 to come to Vermont. We'll consolidate all our schools. Like, no, it hasn't done it. So we need some different thinking. And I think we're going to figure it out. We are going to figure it out. Joanna's going to figure it out. Annie's going to figure it out. Like Vermonters are going to figure it out. Our generation's going to figure it out because we don't want to see the end of Vermont. Every time, you both know this because you get so many people on and you're so curious, but every time I get a chance to be out of the office, driving, connecting, like tonight I'm going up to Milton, tomorrow I'll be in Shaftesbury, I get so fired up and excited when I hear about what people are doing. Yeah. Either it's like some new farm or new small business or a nurse or a healthcare provider, like anyone. I just like, that's like, I get so excited. Like we are so lucky to live in a place where people choose, despite all of the obstacles, to be here. Yeah. Like we're like so, I keep saying like, we're so ride or die, and we are. Yeah. And then that's when I get really hopeful because no matter what happens nationally or internationally, I believe, and this is a bit up in the air and a little lofty, and maybe too a little bit Vermont exceptionalist, but I believe that if we can make some really big and bold decisions right now about how we invest in the state, and if we can hold the line on protecting fundamental rights and keep coming back to our values and our Constitution and how we care for each other, when Trump is gone, and hopefully that will be 2 years and 9 months, people are going to look for two things. How do we get back to where we were? And how do we go forward from here? And Vermont can be an example of those two things if we do it right now. That's what I hope. That is our mission right now.
Okay, so as you know, I've been a leader in the party over the past few years, and I've been thinking a lot about the party and the struggles it's had with its identity and how it connects with voters. And I'm curious, so you're out there talking to people all the time. Who do you feel like the party has lost that you'd like to bring back in with your campaign and your role?
Yeah. So many thoughts. I didn't grow up in a political household. I think there's a little bit of a misconception there. Ran for office as a first-time candidate, really fired up about the demographic crisis and trying to keep a generation here, bring a generation back, bring a new generation, sort of like, how do we figure out these big things? And there have been times where I have felt a connection to the Democratic Party now, where I see what the Republican Party is doing. But I'll be honest, there have been times where I'm not sure I'm smart enough or woke enough or, I think it's also something that women experience, right? We're too young, we're too old, we're not smart enough, we're too smart. We I think the party's lost people because we've built barriers around what it means to be a Democrat. And there's a lot of work to do to get back to, let's figure this out together. What does it mean to care about human rights? What does it mean to be fierce in fighting for access to housing as a basic human right? And then not like having tons of policy discussions and more discussions about what that actually what it kind of means and how to get there, like actually doing it. Like, and that might mean that we do some things that are a little uncomfortable and say, you know what, for example, we've done a lot with Act 250, but maybe we overcorrected and now need to say it's not just designated downtowns that are going to be exempt from this policy, but it's going to be the spaces around these places and just acting in a way that actually delivers for people. I don't want my brothers or I don't know, I'm just trying to think of folks in rural Vermont who were like, ugh, you're a Democrat?
Yeah.
And at times I'm like, ugh, yeah, like, what the heck?
It can be a hard life.
It can be a hard life. And so maybe we'd stop talking about being Democrats and just talk about being people. And that's our mission right now. And maybe not have rallies for rally's sake. Show up. What are we going to do? How are we going to help? And that's what information do we have to share? How can we be a resource? How can we lend our skills and our talents in a way to be helpful? And then executing a vision and being fierce in our focus in doing that. Yeah. I hope I didn't say too much there. I hope I don't get kicked out of the party.
No, hey, if you go, I'll go.
But no. But it's we lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of people, and that's on us. That's on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of the purple districts too, which is just that's where you hate to lose from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as lieutenant governor, you back up the governor. You could conceivably find yourself in the governor's office. In that, if that were to happen, how would you change Vermont's approach to the Trump administration, or would you change your approach?
Yeah, definitely. Just to say, that's a very serious part of the job. If you've ever spoken with Howard Dean, who was lieutenant governor when Dick Snelling passed, he'll tell you he was meeting with a patient and as a doctor, and his assistant came in and said, "Governor, you are now governor." I took that possibility very, very seriously because we were in the middle of COVID and anything could happen. So when I served, I met with every secretary, every commissioner, had a standing meeting with the governor because I didn't want Vermonters at any point to suffer with someone who wasn't prepared to step in and do the job. And I feel much, much more qualified now, having done all sorts of different work in the state and understanding just how our systems work and knowing how the Trump administration is really impacting our communities and our newest Vermonters. So again, right now, we need people who are so fierce in their leadership. And I keep coming back to what happened when our newest Vermonters lost SNAP. And it was crickets about their value to our community. I come back to what happened last week or recently in South Burlington. Our local law enforcement seemingly were left to make some very challenging decisions about whether or not they were going to participate in an ICE enforcement operation. I believe it was in violation of our fair and partial policing policy, which says Vermont does not participate in ICE operations. To me, the governor has to be extremely clear in preparing Vermont law enforcement for that possibility. And I don't know what preparations have happened, but what went down in South Burlington can never happen again in Vermont. So there needs to be action. There needs to be what happened? Why did it happen? Where are we going from here? There's a legislative hearing coming up. I hope we get some answers. But if I were governor, I would be out front right now trying to help make sure that we don't have this ever happen again in Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking to Mayor Emma Mulvaney Stanek here, and they clearly gamed the Burlington. They had talked extensively how they would handle that particular situation in Burlington, and I bet a lot of communities have not had that conversation or are not prepared.
No. And I have colleagues who work at VSP, and they said, they said they're not prepared, and I said, you have to ask these questions and you can say that they're coming from individuals who are working with the refugee community, because Vermonters were coming to me and saying, Molly, if ICE shows up, I can call 911 and someone will come protect us, right? And I forwarded that to VSP, and I was like, are you prepared? How are you going to respond? And this was months ago. So we're here, and we need leadership, and we need to decide what we're going to do.
It's an incredible position that we have residents who are calling for help to protect them from the federal government.
Yeah. And I want to talk about a different piece that if I were governor right now, I would have addressed this months and months ago. There was a recent news story, and we saw this at the Vermont Afghan Alliance as well, where individuals who are placed in Vermont Department of Corrections custody, Vermont has an ICE contract, were not provided access to legal counsel and interpreters. Only 25%, an estimated 25% of individuals who have gone through DOC, gone through ICE custody here in Vermont, have had access to legal counsel and interpreters. That is not on the federal government. That is on Vermont. That is on our Vermont Department of Corrections. We can control what happens within Vermont DOC through demanding and ensuring access to attorneys for everyone who comes through an ICE detainee, and having access to interpreters. That's on us. Like, these are small things that we can do. Vermont never should have ended SNAP. Or if they decided to, find a little bit of state funding to pay for it, a little bit of food. And these are basics.
Always difficult to pivot to the fun closer question out of these harder conversations. But being a return guest, we've put us in a little bit of a dilemma, because we already know your creamy order,
right.
maple vanilla twist.
Good memory.
Yes. I don't think we've had a repeat.
I know.
with
Yeah.
anybody. It's
And
so
they've
many
been
different
getting like
ways to do it.
crazier and crazier.
Well, last one was the dreamy.
Yeah.
The dreamy.
Allison Novak.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which
one-
apparently
it
is
was-
a donut on top of a creamy, and
No, other way. It was a creamy
Creamy
The top of a
on top of a
donut.
donut.
I
But
have had
it
that.
did sound
That is-
amazing.
That does sound amazing.
Yeah.
all right. So this is the question we came up with. So it's a little similar to a question we asked previously, but there are some things that have come in Vermont and things that have gone. What is something that you miss, like a restaurant or an event that you can no longer go to, and what's something new that's popped up that's become your favorite?
Oh boy. Nomad next door had this pastry called the Queenamon.
Had it. It was amazing.
And I had to like practice pronouncing that before coming on. I could still I couldn't pronounce it really, even when it was first, I first had it. But it is this like, I don't even know how to explain it. If you've ever had like apple pie, there's like that part of the apple pie crust at the end that's kind of like covered in the apple pie sauce. And you either eat the crust or you don't. I love crust.
Right.
But it's like, I feel like it's like a pastry with like that, like kind of sugary, gooey yumminess from a pie, but like wrapped around like I don't even know. It's like a cinnamon bun. It was just the best possible pastry I've ever had.
And it's gone now.
And it's gone. And unfortunately, the late Chris Johnson, the pastry chef, passed away. So I'm not sure I'll ever eat another one. But Chris, if you're listening, I'm thinking of you. And so I miss Chris deeply, and I miss his creations. And then a new place. It's not so new, but I love Taco Gordo. And if I could go to Taco Gordo every night, I probably would. It's not very new.
But it's not something you grew up with. I think it counts. Yeah.
Newish, the last 10 years.
I like it too.
5 years.
Yeah.
They do it right.
Yeah.
They do a good job.
Taco Gordo is delicious.
Nice.
Well, Molly Gray, thank you for coming back and spending your birthday
Yeah.
with us here today.
you're
We get to call it out. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Good to see you both. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for being here, Molly.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creamy on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creamy, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify.